All right, we're back on We Want Winners on a Tuesday night, which is not normally our recording time. Uh, Video wise, this will be up Wednesday morning, but Rod and I usually more on a Sunday night thing. But during the off season for the 49ers, we can kind of come in and come out as we please. So we're recording after a couple of days after the NFC and the AFC Conference championship games, which I watched both those games, and we'll talk about those. We'll also talk a little bit about the draft. The draft is kind of the next big thing once the Super Bowl is over. And the Niners actually have a fairly high pick this year at pick number 11. But first, this is what we talked about last time: is Robert Saleh is back. The Jags decided that they were not going to hire Saleh. They hired the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, who kind of looked like a goober when he was talking about what is the chant, Duval, whatever. Like what
Mm-hmm.
are the he kind of looked a little
Yeah.
goofy trying to do that, but I don't know. I thought it was probably not that I know too much about Cohen, but it didn't seem like Salah was really the lead dog on anybody's board, and he was going to have to kind of talk his way into it, interview his way into a spot. And it is kind of surprising though, because Dallas obviously stayed in house with someone who Jerry Jones called what did he call him, a lifetime assistant or a career
Mm-hmm.
assistant or something, in
Mm-hmm.
Brian Schottenheimer. But Saleh comes back to the Niners, and it sounded like he had made a promise to them that if he didn't get a head job, he was coming back. So they were kind of waiting on that. And I don't know what the plan B was. We heard a couple different plan Bs as far as what was out there. Pete Carroll goes to the Raiders, so it's kind of good to see him back on his feet. I know Marshawn Lynch was pretty happy to see him take over. Marshawn Lynch is, I guess he was screaming Raiders out loud during one of the press conferences, and Carroll was like, "I didn't know that was you," and he's like, "Who else sounds like me, man?" Um, and yeah, so Salah's back. What'd you think about the move?
Yeah, I'm glad that it worked out. It's because it seemed like I don't know, the whole Jacksonville thing was weird.
It's
Because
always weird with
all
Jacksonville.
those guys, kind of backed out. So when the offensive guys didn't seem to want to be there, it seemed to me of the candidates that were left, Salah was really the only one with any kind of head coaching experience. So that's why I kind of thought he'd be the leader in the clubhouse. And then they fire Balky. And then the weird thing about Cohen, I mean, obviously he did a good job as a coordinator with the Bucks, but what would give me pause as the about basically ghosting Tampa Bay. Um, and that just it seems weird for a grown man not to be able to just call and say, "Hey, I'm reconsidering,
Yeah.
and I'll let you know." That took me 3 seconds to say, or have your agent do it. I mean,
You know what that
if
tells me though?
hmm
It tells me that he's a little worried about the Jags. Like if that information goes out and I tell my former employer that I'm leaving, that news leaks out, and then the Jags, because of whatever you want to call it, their lack of leadership in the front office or whatever, then they may get cold feet. They may change negotiation. Who knows? Like it's for that to me felt like a lack of trust in the Jaguars, and it did show a little bit of character, I thought too, because who knows what the reason is, but I just thought, oh, he's actually kind of worried that if this information gets out, that's not good for whatever reason.
yeah, I don't know. It just seems to me, well, I guess I understand what you're saying, but just to go radio silent, if I don't know, I'm a big relationship guy, and I don't. don't know. I don't know how you handle that, but I know I wouldn't just not answer their calls and just, ghost them. You
Yeah.
know, like if we look at the fact that they gave him an opportunity to at a young age for and at in a high profile position, and basically are the reason he's even in a position to
Mhm.
be a coach. I believe that you owe them something more than not being able to get a hold of you. I don't know how you play it. I don't know if you even bring up the Jaguars. I'm having second thoughts. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I didn't think that was. I could understand why Tampa Bay would feel a way about the way that went down. But now he's there, Salah's back, and that's a start. Chasing people who think that that's going to make it all better.
Yeah.
If we just run it back with these same guys and bring him in, that this is a top 5 defense. Not from what I saw,
Well,
but
and here's a stat that I saw. I think it was might have been from Matt Barrows' article. And actually, you know what? It was part of his mailbag that just recently came out. And somebody said, at the end of the year, Shanahan said what he wants in his coordinator is an ability to adjust and to, if you need to blitz more, then you blitz more. If you need to not, then you change it up. A little more flexibility in the calls. And Saleh historically just doesn't blitz at all. So
Mhm.
so I don't it's almost like one of those things, and you're starting to hear this a little bit more about Shanahan is he's so focused on the offensive side of the football that the other parts of the game he just wants to hire people he can trust so that he doesn't have to worry about those sides as much. And this sounds like one of those scenarios. And maybe last year he felt like because Sorenson was young in the job that it wasn't a comfortable position for him to be, and he needed that trust. And look, he's dealt with the media in New York. He was
Mhm.
a head coach. He went through this whole Aaron Rodgers situation. He has a terrible owner. So I'm sure he's got a bunch of calluses from that spot, and you can just put him into the defensive side, and he's probably very confident in that role. So maybe that is really what Shanahan wants, is someone who's kind of like just the head coach of the defense. But at the
And
same
that's
time, I just worry that this guy is going to be here for a year and then he bounces again, and then you go through this same issue. So not saying that I wouldn't have hired him. He seems like he was
mhm.
probably the best guy available for them, but
And
kind of
for
what
this
you're saying.
situation.
Yeah, kind
Mhm.
of what you're saying. You just roll the ball out and all of a sudden we're back to the 2019 defense. That's probably not true. They're going to have to make a lot of transactional changes that are going to be more important than just plugging Salah back into the spot.
Yeah, and that is what I think. And also, it's interesting. It's troubling to me. Again, I know Trey Lance comes up, but it's like these decisions that they make. Like it was, they drafted Trey Lance. Dude hadn't played like 100 games total between high school and college, and it just seems like they thought he was going to be plug and play. When I saw them drafting, I thought they were making a commitment to develop him. Clearly, not the case. Nick Sorenson, never been a decent defensive coordinator. To expect him to be a grizzled veteran and not have growing pains, it just didn't make sense. If that's what you wanted, is somebody you could just completely delegate the thing to, you don't hire him. But and then or maybe that's what the role Staley was supposed to be like a buffer there, which is interesting to me too, because everybody, 49er Web Zone is reporting that Staley is out. But when you go and you look at the org chart, Saleh has been added, Boyer has been added. Staley is still there as the assistant head coach defense. So if he is not on staff, it's not like it hasn't been updated. There hasn't been any news saying that he is no longer there. And it would seem to me that when you added Saleh and you added Boyer, if he was gone, you would just wipe him away. But clearly that wasn't done. So I don't know what or if, and maybe it doesn't matter. Those are just kind of things, the little detail things that I find interesting. Is he still there? And if he is, then what exactly is his role? Like when you say, when it seems like if Saleh is somebody that he trusts to run it, what then exactly what is Staley's role?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and it's something that I was thinking about too. Staley seemed to be there almost like if Sorenson shits the bed, we can we can just put somebody in the position, and then maybe we won't be in too bad of a spot. I don't like the safety net because then you have a coach who you're giving a lot of responsibility to, always having to look over his shoulder. I don't know if that's how it was. I don't understand why Staley was there if that was not the case. But for now, if I'm Saleh, unless in my mind I'm a one and done, I don't know if I want Staley there necessarily for the same reason. And I wonder if the reason why Staley is there still is because they want to find, or he wants to find his landing spot, and they want to make that transition a lot easier, where it's like, oh, he found a better position, or he found somewhat, we had this handshake agreement. If he found something that was going to be better for him, we were cool with it. And that's how they do it, versus all of a sudden the Niners let Brandon Staley go before he has an opportunity to find a better spot. Like, I wonder if that is more the reason.
Or the option B, when going all the way back to your initial concern about Saleh, depending on what their relationship is, if he can just be here, maybe that's their backup plan. They are anticipating that Saleh will do what everybody thinks he does and brings the defense back up to where it was, and then he's a hot candidate again. And maybe Brandon Staley is the fallback position. And if their relationship warrants it, where he's, I don't think that Saleh, with what he has accomplished, would necessarily be threatened by Staley. Maybe that's the plan, is that Staley just stays on, and there, if and when Saleh leaves next year, that's the backup plan. It's a seamless transition. Whereas, like what your concern was, is that if he is one and done, then we're like back to square one in terms of trying to find so maybe Staley is an exit plan. I don't know, and again, I guess I really believe that would have a lot to do with his and Saleh's relationship, that they feel like they're going to be able to coexist. And where that comes in is, if Saleh is, not, he doesn't feel threatened by Staley, and he's confident that, he's got it, and Staley is just there to be a consultant. It's kind of like he was last season. And again, because that is my frame of mind. I have always been a collaborative person, and I believe that the more people that are in the room, and apparently, everybody thinks that, Staley is a really smart guy. The more smart people, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I look at it. And that whole Shanahan McVay coaching tree is pretty incestuous. So it would not surprise me at all that they would be cool. So it'll be interesting to see, but it could very well be like you're saying, is they're giving him an opportunity to find a soft place to land, and it makes the narrative a lot, more conducive to Staley's situation, to be able to, kind of like they did, Anthony Lynn. They didn't let him go. It was like he was hired away,
Right.
and they allowed him, air quotes, to take the same position in Washington, and we wish him well, and it both parties look kind of, the 49ers look magnanimous, and it doesn't look like Anthony Lynn got fired.
Right. And you mentioned Boyer, so coming over with Saleh is Brant Boyer to take over the special teams. I thought that was interesting that Sorenson, I think Cowboys, right? He went to
Yeah,
take the special teams job at the Cowboys.
not
So
a bad job. Their special teams were like top 3 in the league last year, so he's walking into a really good position. And he had coached, unlike defensive coordinator, he had coached special teams before in Seattle. So he'll be going to a position where it's not like he is a rookie there. So I'm one that, I'm not like, you see the chatter on the interwebs, like, good riddance and whatnot. I wish them dudes good. I hope he goes over there. And obviously I'm not rooting for the Cowboys. I'm a 49er fan, but I would like him to, I don't have any animus towards him.
no, not at all.
I hope he does well.
Well, and the thing that I found interesting though is, he is in a pretty decent role last year. He takes on more responsibility. I'm talking about the year before, actually. Then he takes more responsibility, and it's almost because I guess they would say that he failed in that job. That he could have taken over the 49ers special teams. I wonder why that didn't happen, or if they had their eye on Boyer, if Saleh was coming over, like just the politics of that scenario. Because you would think they thought high enough of Sorensen to graduate into a very valuable role, but then he didn't do a great job of it by the numbers. And so rather than him getting sort of demoted, I wonder if that kind of looks bad, in the inner politics of a team, is to demote somebody, and all of a sudden his responsibilities are different. Like, I just wonder why he wasn't the special teams coach.
It's interesting. I don't know the politics in the hierarchy, because it would sound like by title that it would be a lateral move to coordinator, but I don't know. Maybe special teams coordinator in that world is seen as a demotion. But it was interesting that, again, they just let Brian Schneider go, but they didn't let him go.
Yeah.
It was like he was, and it was stated that he was being considered for another role on the staff, which again speaks to the fact that at very least they think highly of him, highly enough of him to have been willing to keep him on the staff. But then that's the politics of, like you say, back office politics, is that I've always stated that, and it's not always an analogous comparison, but Jerry Rice, it's easier when he left here and went to the Raiders and became the number 2 to Tim Brown. It's easier to take that kind of demotion elsewhere than to stay and like be the number 2 to Terrell Owens. It's just as a as a pride thing,
Probably easier to be on the same field with Tim Brown than maybe T.O. at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just
just
from that, you watch this kid grow into your role, and
mm-hmm.
T.O. is he's got a personality to him, and Tim Brown is kind of a little bit more of the ultimate professional. At least that was
And it
his.
was as a obviously nobody is on Jerry Rice's tier, but it sounds good in the press conference because
Yeah.
Tim Brown is a all pro player. So somebody who is in the I don't know, he's a peer as a teammate. I mean, obviously he's not Jerry Rice is peerless as a player, but
Tim Brown
you.
make the Hall of Fame?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but again, I'm sure Tim Brown and everybody respects Tim Brown, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Jerry Rice respects Tim Brown. So it is a much more seamless transition. Like I say, I just think about it for me, and that's you talk about my ego and pride. I wouldn't take a demotion at the place that I was at.
Yeah,
But
it's
if
hard.
I had to, I would go. If you do it, you go somewhere else. It's a lot easier because there's no baggage there. Like now you're reporting to the person
Yeah,
who
exactly.
used to report to you. It just that's weird to me. So
Yeah, and if Shanahan, from everything that I hear and I've read, yeah, he could be a pretty vocally demeaning guy sometimes,
mhm,
and if Sorensen, was taking a lot of that heat, even as the defense coordinator, then to
yeah.
take a job that Shanahan absolutely does not seem to care about at all, which is special teams, I could see why that might not be his favorite
It's just
responsibility.
it's weird how fans don't think about those interpersonal dynamics. Like,
Mhm.
the big thing for a while there was like the 49ers are considering Pete Carroll, which number one, nobody's ever said Pete Carroll was considering being a
Yeah.
defensive coordinator. But I mean, let's just think about this. Pete Carroll's won a national championship. He's won a Super Bowl. What makes you think he's looking to be somebody's subordinate, especially when you talk about the fact that if by some chance he didn't get a head coaching job, which it seemed like he had Brady was really interested in him from the jump. Even if he didn't, defensive coordinator, if they did what they said and made Salah the highest paid, that's like $5 million. Pete could have got double that doing a third of the work on TV. What
Mhm.
on earth would make you think he would take less money to come answer to Jed and Kyle? I mean, get out of here. It doesn't make any sense for people like Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll to come and be somebody's coordinator. That is just it's a ridiculous notion.
The only thing I thought was he could be interested if he thought he was kinda getting aced out of these jobs because he was just an old dude, and one way that he could prove to teams that he's still sharp and he's still on his A game is to help coach up a defense. It's like proof, right? Like in Seattle, when they kind of agree to go their separate ways, a lot of the reasoning is, well, Pete's getting up there in age, and can he still reach the players in the same way? And these, he's essentially the grandfather age of these kids. And so I think personally, Pete Carroll could probably teach a lot of people how to do better on the football field. Like, he's not going to lose that, but he may lose his influence because you get labeled as being an old dude or whatever, and he could have proven like, nah, I still got my chops in
Okay,
that way.
okay, I get that, but my counter is okay. So he's gonna come work for Jed, and work for Kyle, and be a subordinate, and he's gonna come run Kyle's system. I just don't see it. I do not see there are certain levels. Again, this is I guess my C on it is there are certain levels of humility that somebody who has reached that standard are not gonna treat. Because I know like again the other example I use is Belichick. There's no way in hell he's coming in here and running Kyle's system. Fuck out of here. I've won 8 championships running my defense. It's absurd. It's an absurd notion. So I get it. Maybe you're right, but
but why does Bill go to North Carolina?
Because he's still running it, and I mean he got a really sweet deal on top of it. So it clearly seems to me that he still wanted to coach, but again,
you think he's happy putting on a terrible blazer and actually having to comb his hair and go visit people? Like it's just
I don't think he's. I think if anything, he might be a closer, but they got all. I know that he replaced Mac Brown, another who was actually older than him, and Mac Brown didn't recruit. If anything, he might go in and close, but you have young recruiters that go do that. And again, you put yourself in a position just kind of like Mac Brown. He is the highest paid state employee in the state of North Carolina. He makes more money than the governor. He makes more money than the school president. So I mean, that's why to me it's so okay. He might answer on an org chart to the school president.
Yeah,
come on.
Do you think in Kyle's next negotiation, he's like, I want to make 2x Gavin Newsom?
It's crazy. I didn't realize until I was looking when they were talking about Saleh and what coordinators make, and I didn't realize that Kyle made made $14 million a year. That's crazy. Yeah. He only Reed makes more money than him.
Actually, it sounds like Newsom's actual salary is pretty low, but I'm sure he makes some change in other ways.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, he's just the intel that those people are privy to is crazy. And then, like you say, you always see governors and senators, their net worth explodes as soon as they're out of office.
This dude is always eating at the fanciest, richest restaurants. So I don't know if
he doesn't pay a check.
Yeah,
he probably never pays a check. But yeah.
All right, let's fast forward, or actually rewind to the championship games on Sunday. I was not one of the folks who thought the Commanders were going to win. I thought the moment was going to be a little bit too big, and I just thought that the Eagles were going to out tough them. But the story is great. Jalen Daniels is amazing. Loved watching the last few games of just I think people fall in love with the athletic ability, the way that he can run and get out of the pocket if need be, the strong arm. But what impresses me most is his ability to do things that quarterbacks because we saw Alex Smith, and it's easy to compare folks to Alex Smith because we saw him from the baby deer to grow to actually a good playoff quarterback. But if you compare Jaden Daniels and Alex Smith, imagine, if Alex Smith was doing what he was doing, he was way better in year one than Alex Smith was ever in his career. And that's just the difference of, this quarterback class and all that stuff. I'm sure if Aaron Rodgers started in Green Bay as a rookie or in his second year, he was probably going to be really good too. But just his ability to do a lot of things that a lot of veteran quarterbacks cannot do, with the speed in which he goes through his route tree, with his ability to make decisive decisions, and those decisions generally being right. When we're watching both quarterbacks, and I thought Jalen Hurts played a pretty good game. I did not like the way that Jalen Hurts played the week before. I thought he was way indecisive on stuff, and he was holding the ball so long against the Rams. I thought Jalen Hurts played a pretty good game against Philly. But still, at the same time, I thought that from a decision-making standpoint, I thought Daniels was sharper on a lot of that stuff. Hurts made some really big throws though, so you can't take that away from him. But when I compared the two, I thought Daniels was just as good or better than Hurts, and this dude was in his first playoff run, which was tremendous. But the Eagles are tough, man. Like, we were talking about defense coordinators. Fangio, the way he's got so much talent on the defensive line.
It's crazy. In the secondary.
Those guys remind me a lot of the style of 49ers football that we like to see when they just out-tough the other teams. Like, I think if the Niners defense last year had played in the playoffs like they had played earlier in the season, like that's the kind of ball that we would have saw. But in late in the playoffs, last year's defense did not play as well. But man, Philly is tough. They have on the defensive line, they have so much talent. This is probably gonna hurt me in some way. But as of today, Tuesday, we're still a week and a half for the Super Bowl. I'm actually going to pick Philly to win that game today. There may be stuff that comes out that makes me change my mind. But I think from that ability for them to just hit harder than everybody else and push people around, I think that's how you beat the Chiefs. Now, Spags may just come out with a defensive masterpiece and have Hurts not knowing where stuff is coming. That can totally happen. But today, January 28th, I'm picking the Eagles to win that game.
I think they are the better team. They are able to run the ball, obviously, and that is like the Achilles heel of the Chiefs defense. And all of that is true. Ain't no way in hell I'm betting against Patrick Mahomes.
I'm not putting money on it. I'm not putting any money on it.
I can't do it.
If there was money involved, it would probably be different, but I can kind of YOLO this because I don't have money on it.
Crazy to see how they were. I was concerned as I don't know how it ended up that I was rooting for the Chiefs at some point, but I was, and it was like uh-oh. It was like they in the second half they started getting cooked going. It's like, man, they're just gonna run the ball down these dudes' throat, and it doesn't seem like there's anything that they can do about it. Wrong. Spags was able to pull a rabbit out of his hat like he always does. And then that last play of the Bills, when he calls that corner blitz, that was just masterful. And then, damn it, if Josh Allen doesn't damn near still make a play on that throw, it's just, he is unbelievable. He just makes throws that there might be one other person on the planet can make. He is awesome.
Well, imagine if George Kittle was our starting quarterback, because that's like the size Josh Allen is. Size and athleticism and strength is like, oh yeah, if George was a starting quarterback in the NFL, like that's Josh Allen.
I never thought I would see a quarterback harder to tackle than Ben Roethlisberger, but he is. And, Ben was big, but this dude is big and fast and just remarkable to see. On a Philly note, you see Owen Burke out there making plays at linebacker, which was, disheartening to see as a 49er fan. But he, Fangio, he was tremendous here. And just really has those guys playing, and there's just talent everywhere. It got a couple of white guys back there in the secondary that's out there balling, who I'm rooting for, who are like Taylor, whatever his name, DeJean is like my favorite player now. He is awesome. Just to watch him out there, and he's got, I don't know, maybe it's a bias on my part, but I like them. I like when I see white guys out there. Like Chet is a favorite of mine to watch him out there giving it as good as he gets, and it's that team. It's fun to watch. With them not with the Niners not being there, I just want to see good games, and that Bills Chiefs game was tremendous, and I just hope we have a good Super Bowl. It's always nice when it's down to the fourth quarter and those guys are, both teams are in it. And it was interesting though. I want to circle back to the point you made in the comparison to Alex Smith, which a lot of people who aren't here, because that was not like really a social media era. Alex Smith, I remember vividly listening to KNBR and Steve Young after year one openly questioning whether this dude could even play. Because if I don't know how many of us remember, he just had a hard time, because he played shotgun completely, pistol completely at Utah, and just seemed like a duck, trying flailing away, under center. And he just had a hard time getting us out of the huddle and lined up, and a bunch of false starts. And it was just, delay of games.
Delay a game. Oh my gosh.
It was, so when you made the comparison between him and Jaden Daniels as rookies, now granted, I think you can put Jaden Daniels in the same category. He's much better than like Bo Nix, and then Brock is better than Bo Nix. But all of those guys, the thing they all have in common is they played a lot of college football before they came into the NFL. So that's the thing that impressed me about Daniels. He just seems so composed.
Well, we saw Caleb live. I was impressed with Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought there's a lot of talent, but he did not have the same kind of just leadership and being in charge of the offense that Daniels did. And Daniels' team is better, of course. Like he, some of that is him also making that team better. I didn't get to see any Drake May. Drake May did not play against 49ers. We thought that there was a possibility, but he did not play. So we didn't see him. Bo Nix is he's not asked to do a whole lot. So it's not a great comparison. But Daniels is, I don't know, man. That was just a very special guy that I was watching. And going back to the Steve Young and Alex Smith thing, he would always say the game is too fast. Like there's a processing speed that you need, and Alex struggled with the process of everything. It was almost like Alex was playing in regular speed and the defense was playing in like fast forward, and he just could not keep up. And you watch Daniels and you hear all this stuff. Oh, he uses this VR technology and he's, in whatever it is, he's also just a special athlete and a special player. And the only thing you're really worried about is his frame. And he's just, you just don't want to see him take these giant hits because of his frame. He is very slender. So
I can't remember which wide receiver it was, if it was Keyshawn or Randy Moss, but one of them said that they just believe that Alex is one of those guys that was too smart. That they're, in terms of processing, you can overthink it, and get, like a paralysis by analysis type thing. At a certain point, you just gotta grip it and rip it. You see what you see, but you can't overthink it. And Alex did that. And it was interesting that you brought him up with both of those quarterbacks in the NFC, because that is the criticism out of Philly the same criticism that Jalen Hurts gets was actually what was Alex's ultimate undoing. Is even after Harbaugh unlocked him and got him playing well, he just could never get over the hump in terms of his risk aversion.
Yeah.
He valued protecting the ball over all else. And there are just times when you have to take the chance. We talked about that with Jimmy here, is that in this offense, in our offenses, really, there has to be a deep threat.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw with Jimmy, there were just times where DBs wouldn't even, get out of their back pedal because they just knew Jimmy wasn't going to throw the ball deep. It wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to throw it deep and outside the numbers. He just wasn't going to do it. And that was what was Alex's undoing, even to a certain extent in Kansas City. Well, Patrick Mahomes was his undoing there. But even while he was there, he just refused to put the ball in harm's way. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. I was talking about Randy Moss earlier. That was the problem with Kerry Collins. Warren Sapp used to say is Kerry Collins would come and say, he's double coverage. He's not open. It's Randy Moss. You just throw it out there, and 9 times out of 10, something good is going to happen. So you can't overthink it in terms of, sometimes you just got to take the shot to put it in the defense's mind that, that is a possibility. Because if they don't have to respect that, then you make it a whole lot harder on the offense. The safeties can just come down, especially if you're a run-based team. If you can't throw them out of playing 2 safeties in the box, you're just making it so much harder for your run game to do what it needs to do. So that's the thing with Jalen Hurts, is that he is very, very risk averse and is really concerned about turning the ball over. And that is really the governor on that offense is, if you get good Jalen, you get what you saw, against the Redskins. But then, like you said, the week before, if you don't, that's what you get. You get 130 yards passing.
And him taking sacks when they can't take
crazy.
sacks.
That's just, he has to know that at least that, even if you're going to be risk averse, you then can't, when, you don't like to, bring up the negative or say don't do, but golly, in that position, the last thing you can do is take a sack.
Yeah.
Just chuck it. Get out of the pocket and chuck it. Don't do that.
Mahomes is I called him Michael Jordan of the NFL. If MJ was like not cool, like if MJ had a mullet, that's Patrick Mahomes. Like, because everything about his game is there's a slickness to it. He's 2 steps ahead of the defense. He and Andy Reid together, they create these running lanes for this dude, and this dude is not fast, and yet he's always got an open 10 yards ahead of him. And then he just makes the right throws when they need him. You very rarely see him make a mistake in a way where you're like, oh yeah, he actually did not believe that they were going to make that. But he believes every single time they have the football that they're going to do something positive. The only thing that stops them, I think, and this is kind of up to Fangio, because this is really a Spags versus Fangio matchup. Now we say that, and yet in the NFL today, offenses rule the world, so the defenses can still call a great game, and it's still going to be 30-30 or whatever, just because all the rules favor the offense. But I thought both times the Niners lost in the Super Bowl, they played Mahomes through 3 quarters or through a half or whatever, about as good as you can. The flip side is you got to get some distance in front of that dude. And when you don't get enough distance in front of that dude, you know that he's coming back. And both times the Niners ran out of time in the Super Bowl, and he came back and he won those games. And this is where Saquon comes into play, because if you can keep Mahomes off the field, and when he does have a chance, just him not, them having to punt once, and all of a sudden Philly gets the ball back and it's the second quarter and Mahomes hasn't really done much. That's, I think, how you can actually beat the guy. But if you're in a close game and it's 27-27 and 5 minutes left, even if Philly scores with a minute 15 left to take the lead, I still feel like the Chiefs are going to win the game. And that's just because of what we've seen. We kind of had the same feeling about Brady and the Patriots back in the day. We kind of had the same feeling about Montana and the Niners back in the day. But I feel like this one is even more so. It's almost like he's like a magician. Like he's just going to do it, and all of the rules now favor the offense so much, like that championship game against the Bills a couple years ago. In 1985, there's no way you can win that game in the way that they did, but in
Mm-mm.
2023, you can because of the rules.
Mhm.
So,
No.
um, whatever, he's got all the tricks in the book. When they need a defensive pass interference, he's going to figure out how to get it, and then the fans are going to blame the ref. That's just how it is. But yeah, that would be my. I mean, I don't expect the Eagles to win, and I know that this puts me in the minority as far as saying the Eagles are going to win, because it's kind of stupid to bet against the Chiefs. But at this point, I am going to take the Eagles, and it'll give me a little bit of a rooting interest during the game. And then when the game is over, then I could be like, oh yeah, that dude's the best. But I was rooting against him in the game.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned with the game. Like you say, points are going to be scored because that's just the nature of the NFL. But it's going to come down to, and I thought that was going to be the case in the Bills game too. The reason I thought, because Josh Allen is on a heater, but I thought that the reason that the Chiefs would win was because I trusted their defense to make the play
All
that
those
needed to be
crazy
made.
ass blitzes so late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yep. And
amazing risk, amazing guile, amazing strategy. Them knowing that they were going to be able to overwhelm, the Bills in that moment and still have enough defenders surrounding the receiver. They left the dude in the backfield wide open, and they bet on the fact that he wasn't going to have enough time to even get to that read, and he was only going to be
mm-hmm.
able to zero in on one guy, and they triple teamed the one guy, and they still almost made the catch, but that was like the perfect call.
Well, that if it gave me flashbacks of our final play in the Super Bowl. Kyle had schemed it wide open. We just couldn't block it.
Yeah.
Brock didn't have enough time to find the open receiver. And that's what happened there. And I just think it's going to come down to it circles back to what we were talking about with Jalen Hurts. I think that what, Spags is going to do is he's not going to let Saquon beat him. They're going to make Jalen Hurts beat them with his arm, because that's what I thought. That's why it was strange to me with the Bills that they came out just slinging it with Josh Allen, and he went YOLO, and he in that first drive he
Almost threw
threw
two picks.
two he threw two pickable balls. But I just thought that's what the game plan would be for them, is just to give them a heavy dose of Josh Allen running and Cook running and making them stop it, and then go up over the top. And I think that's what they're going to make the Eagles do. They're going to make Jalen Hurts throw them out of those run heavy boxes, and then conversely, it'll be whichever defense. I think you hit it on the head. I think that calls the better game between Fangio and Spags is going to have a huge say in who wins this game. And again, it could very well be a 28-35 game, but I still think that when it comes down to it, it's going to be whichever defense stands up that ultimately decides the game. It's going to be interesting. I'm 100% with you. If you're just looking at it dispassionately, the Eagles check the box, I guess, everywhere except quarterback, maybe, obviously. But I like, just going unit by unit. I like Philly everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see um, if they can pull it off. And then you've got the whole thing. I've seen this show before. I went to a movie theater to watch the Patriots go for their three-peat, and it was just the Giants just hung around and hung around
Yeah.
and hung around, and then you get all for me. I got all the way to the fourth quarter. And I was just waiting for you know the Patriots to pull away, and it just never happened. So I think I bring that up to say that I think at a certain point the pressure is on the Chiefs to whether or not the enormity of what that means, three in a row. If that comes into play, I don't even know if that's a real thing. But you see people, yeah, they say that for professionals is not, but I've watched too much, and I guess it's like individual sports, but I've just watched too much where you see people, champions, great champions, just tighten up in crucial moments, where you feel like just the enormity of it got to them. So I don't know if that'll happen to them, and I don't. If the Eagles win it, I don't know. I'm not one who like attributes, but there are some times when teams lose rather than other teams win. Like perfect case in point for me is I thought the Ravens lost that game more so than the Bills won it.
Hmm.
So that's possible. But yeah, again, I just hope it's a good game. And I don't really have a rooting interest. I'd love to see, Saquon cap off his tremendous season with a championship. And I am an admirer of greatness, so
Yeah.
it would not displease me at all, regardless of our shared history with the Chiefs. I think it would be cool to witness history. That's always how I've looked at it. Like I hate the Lakers, but anytime Kobe would do something great, I mean, I was never rooting against him not to score 81 points or
Mhm.
whatever. It's just cool to see and witness, to be able to witness greatness, and to be able to say, I can say I was at a bar in Anaheim watching him put 81 on the Raptors.
On
It's
on
cool.
on Jalen Rose's head.
It's cool to witness history like that. And that I guess that comes with being old, because I used to root against people all the time when I
Yeah.
was young, but now I I know that these things that come around, like you watching, you live through like Tiger Woods, and it's like that's crazy that
Yep.
I was able to witness like his whole career. I took my daughters out there to watch the final round of his first victory in Las Vegas, and then to see the ascension and then the dominance, and witness the whole thing is just really cool to do. And those things as I get older, they mean a lot. Yeah. So
Yeah,
whichever way.
Tiger's like 6 months older than me, so I
Wow.
knew, I
Yeah.
mean, I knew about that dude when he was, like, in high school because she read
Mm-hmm.
Sports Illustrated back then, so yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting the kind of being the same age as him, watching him do what he was doing. Alright, so I guess, maybe after the Super Bowl, I think we're gonna try and record. I don't know what time yet, so if it's early enough, we can go live on YouTube. If it's not, we may just record it and put it up, later. But before we get out of here, I was wondering if you had done any draft reading yet, as far as what's out there, what the Niners should do, their sort of strategy historically in, I think outside of one time where, they went out and got McGlinchey early, that they don't really go trench guys, unless it's a stud, obviously Nick Bosa on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So there's thoughts of, is there a tackle available? Are there defensive tackles? Are there edge guys available? What would be your preference as you look at the board at number 11?
Early on, I've kind of, with the help of a scouting friend of my brother's, kind of been breaking down, because I want to do some stuff, along the lines on the draft. And we talked about the positions. The defensive line is relatively deep. You can get some good edges, in the second and third round. Defensive tackle the same. Um, and then guard and center also even deeper in, like fourth, fifth, sixth round. There will be some viable players there. But tackle is top heavy. And the two that he really feels like are talented and our scheme fit for the 49ers are Banks and Campbell from LSU. There is a feeling that, Banks is right up there as the top tackle, but there are some whispers. They got him listed at 6'4", but that he might be shorter than that. But that would be, my scout friend says, Rob says that would be good for the Niners if he does measure shorter, because he is a beast. It doesn't matter if he is 6'4" or 6'2.5". He is that dude, and he is a perfect scheme fit for this offense. And then Campbell the same way. He's a big dude, and is also really, really nobody's Trent with the footwork and mobility.
Yeah.
College, but they profile like that, and they are able to move, and they are, dancing bears in pass protection. So they will both be good fits here. And unless Banks slips a bit, it's, kind of like 50-50 right now as to whether or not either of them will be there at 11. But if they are, that would be, right now, that would be the place that, it seems like we should go, because those other positions, you will be able to find, good players deeper into the draft than you will tackles. And tackle is just, to me, it's just an obvious need. I think all of those, it would be a shocker to me if, I don't want to say the majority, because that's a lot, that we take 3 or 4, um, 4 offensive linemen is probably a lot. 2 or 3, and then definitely we need 2 or 3 edge players. I think I'm really tired of this thing that we're doing with, veteran minimum replacement players. I would just as soon draft replacement level rookies and go through the growing pains. You got them, you'll have them for 4 years. Maybe it means taking a bit of a step back. Because I'm not, I guess I'm in the minority. I just don't. I think it's super optimistic that a lot of things would have to go right for us to be thinking about Super Bowl next season. I know everybody, you go in with that mindset, but I just think we're at a point. Like, again, you hear people talking about, trading up to do. I don't think we have picks to trade up. I think we should be of a mindset to infuse this roster with as much youth as possible to support our young quarterback, not just this season, but on into the future, and get off of this treadmill of the Malik Collinses and the Jordan Elliott's of the world. No disrespect to those dudes, but they're like 29 and 30 years old. They aren't the future.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about building out this roster long term instead of these stopgap measures of going all in for this season. I just think we are at a place. Alexa, turn on lamp. Sorry about that. Thinking about just trying to compete for this season. I think that window has closed, and I don't think the window of us being good is closed, but I think we should go down a different track of
You're
trying.
talking the Warriors 2 timeline here, man. This is
It's kind of we're seeing how that's kind of working out.
No, I like it. We're gonna have more because I know you're really interested in this stuff. So we'll double down on draft talk, and I'm gonna read as many of these things as possible. The problem is I don't watch college football, so I see names that I recognize, but I will not have watched any of these dudes play. And as much as YouTube tape that you can watch, a lot of it is just like all of the good things that they do.
Exactly.
So
100%.
but yeah, so we'll we have a couple months and we'll do that, and we'll kind of key in on a couple of players that we like. I wanted to make one comment about the death lineup. So Brian and I had to stop recording. He had some Wi-Fi issues. Also, the Warriors have been playing some Thursday games, and that's the day that we like to record. But we will be back on Thursday. We're gonna talk to. I don't want to tease it too hard, just in case it falls through. But there's a college basketball, women's college basketball WNBA writer who is no longer writing full time and actually has a job at a local Bay Area college, but she knows women's basketball, and we're going to talk to her hopefully this week to talk about some of the Valkyrie stuff as the Valkyries are coming on, and then Brian and I are going to go down this Jimmy Butler thing that it seems like the Warriors are back in on this Jimmy thing. And so we'll talk about that. And then it'll come off of the heels of them playing the Thunder. I don't have high hopes for that Thunder game because Thunder are really good. But so Brian and I we should be back this weekend with the death lineup. And then Brad and I took the week off just because it's still not even spring training for baseball. And we'll be back next week with Thompson to Clark. So nice little slate of podcasts coming to the BSPN network. And Rod and I will be back post Super Bowl, depending on the timing will depend if we actually go live or not. But that'll be the next time that Rod and I jump back on the mics and chit chat. All right. I guess if you were to make a prediction, you're saying can't bet against Mahomes, and so you're picking the Chiefs. Chiefs are 1.5 point favorite, I think, at this point. I'm just gonna for fun. I'm gonna go the other way. I'm not gonna put money on it, but I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna say the Eagles are gonna win this game, and then we'll have a nice little angle to look at the game for Super Bowl Sunday, and we'll be able to chat about it when we come back.
Sounds great.
All right. For Rod, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.